of you here. This is a very exciting time for us at SHLD. Here is the agenda. So Rachel, please can you put the agenda up? Thank you. We have 2 hours together and there will be 10-minute break at 12 o'clock. Over to Liz.
Lovely. Thanks, Ian. And welcome everyone. It's great to see you all. Thanks so much for your support and for your interest in the work we're doing here at SHLD or SHLD. It really means a lot to us that you've joined us today, so thank you. Today is really a chance for us to share with you some of the work we've been doing, but also to think about what else you think we could and should be doing going forward and how you'd like to work with us in the future. So before we get going, we've got a few housekeeping issues to run through. Rachel, would you mind just going to the next slide, please? So just as a reminder, please keep your microphone on mute if you're not presenting. We are recording the main sessions today, so you may wish to turn your camera off. And if you don't turn your camera off, it just means that you might be captured as part of the recording. So just be aware of that. We're really tight for time today. I think the 2 hours is going to absolutely fly by. So in the main sessions, there won't be time for questions, but there will be plenty of time in the breakout rooms for conversation. But as we're going through, please do use the chat box if you're comfortable using the chat box to share any comments and ideas. Okay, next slide, please. Now, we're really delighted that Learning Disability England have kindly agreed to support us with this event today. So thanks very much to the LDE team, Rachel, Sam and Gary. And Gary, I know that you were going to say a few words, so over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I've been involved in the self-advocacy movement and campaigning alongside people with learning disabilities for nearly 40 years. It seems a long lifetime. During that time, I've heard so many people's amazing and inspiring stories. Those stories have not always been easy to listen to, but what I've realized is that we should never forget them. That doesn't mean dwelling on the past, but recognizing the strength of people with learning disabilities and their families and learning from the mistakes that were made to make people's lives better now. For many years, the experience of people with learning disabilities were hidden, ignored, or told by others. For me, this centre represents a chance for people to really use their voice, to tell their stories and shape the future. People with learning disabilities being involved as equal partners in research and change gives us all a better chance of building services, communities, and policies that actually work for people. So I'm really pleased to see this work beginning, and I'm excited to see how the centre will continue to support people with learning disabilities to be heard, influence real change, and to live good lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. That was what a wonderful introduction for us. Thank you so much. Such powerful words. Ian, is there anything you want to say in response to that? Yeah, you've said it all there, Gary. Thank you. So we're going to give you a little bit of information now about the centre and how it's come to be, because it hasn't emerged out of nowhere, as many of you will be aware. So our centre builds on 30 years of the social history of learning disability group at the Open University. And as some of you will know, that group was started back in 1994 by Jan Walmsley and Dorothy Atkinson. And they recognise that the stories of people with learning disabilities from the past, even the very recent past, were not well known or understood, just as Gary has said. So along with others, Jan and Dorothy started exploring the archives and interviewing people with learning disabilities and their family carers about their histories. So in the years that followed, the SHLD group published lots of books, organised conferences where people with learning disabilities told their stories alongside academics who were sharing the work that they were doing. And many of you I know have been to those conferences over the years. But the group also supported people to start researching their own pasts. So Mabel Cooper, for example, who you can see on the slide here with her friend Dorothy Atkinson, had lived in institutions since she was a child. And Mabel was later moved to St Lawrence's Hospital, and she lived there until she was in her 40s. Mabel had no idea why she was sent there or what had happened to her family. And after putting the pieces of her life together with Dorothy's help, Mabel became a real advocate within the SHLD group, sharing her life story and encouraging others to learn more about the history of learning disability. Mabel always said that knowing about the past might help to prevent a repeat of some of the terrible injustices that people with learning disabilities had experienced, and she's inspired much of our work in SHLD, or as Ian says, SHIELD, the other way we say it, since. The next slide, please, Rachel. So over the past 30 years, the group have been researching and sharing people's histories and stories, but we've also expanded to cover other areas of research, not just history. And SHLD has been a long-standing champion of inclusive research, exploring ways that we can work better together and make sure that people with learning disabilities are at the centre of the research that concerns them. But I guess we've always had the long view in mind, so thinking about how the issues that people face in their lives today might be shaped or influenced by things that have happened in the past. So next slide, please, Rachel, and Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Last year, we had a conference in Milton Keynes to celebrate the 30 years of SHIELD. It made us think about planning the future. We want SHIELD to grow and work with more people. We've got to think about the next generation. We hope that becoming a centre of the OU will help us to do this.
Thank you.
The next generation of people.
That will come up a little bit later. Yeah, thank you, Ian. Thanks. So the centre, we hope, will also enable us to grow and share some of the other research we do, and we'll be talking about some of that work today. So that's research that covers health and social care, advocacy rights and social justice, and inclusive arts and culture. But we're also really thinking about how all these different areas of work overlap. So, for example, how does doing something that you love, for example, being part of a dance or a drama group, how does that affect your health and well-being? How can we connect all these different areas of research to help us get a sense of the bigger picture? Next slide, please, Rachel. The centre is also a really good chance for us to connect the research that we're doing with the Open University's teaching and learning. For example, our learning disability nursing programme. We really want to inspire more people to work alongside people with learning disabilities and to become allies and advocates. Next one, please, Rachel. So setting up the centre was also a chance for us to think more about how we work and how people can be involved. The centre is led by the SHLD Dragons, who you'll meet throughout the morning. And they're kind of really at the centre in terms of steering the work that we're doing. But our SHLD members also play a really key role in helping us to grow and connect our research. And SHLD members include people with learning disabilities, family carers, practitioners, researchers from other universities, representatives from advocacy groups and arts organisations and care organisations. And we have UK members, but we also have a lot of members from overseas. And the flags here give you a sense of some of our international partners through SHLD. And finally, we have our SHLD friends, who are the people and organisations who want to stay connected to the work we're doing, to hear about what we're doing and get those updates, and who also join us for events like our big conferences in Milton Keynes. And in our conversations with you today, we want to talk about how we can enable more people to become part of SHLD, and we want to hear from you about how you might like to be involved in the future and what we can do to support that. So next slide, please, Rachel, and Ian, it's over to you here.
This one here, isn't it? Remember when I said about the next generation? This is what it meant. Here are some of the SHIELD dragons who are helping to build our centre at the OU. Me, Craig and Jan are staying on as advisors. So this has been my passion for quite some time, realising that there's days when some of us can't be around, and looking at the slide in front of you will tell you that the next generation is here. And these are the people who are going to be driving the centre alongside the advisors to make sure that whatever work we do in the future stands out and make sure that everybody takes part in the work we do in the future.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you. Next slide, please, Rachel. So finally, what do we want to achieve with the centre? Well, on the slides here, you'll see some of the key issues that have come up in our conversations with the SHLD Dragons and our SHLD members over the last couple of years. In the main, I guess we want our research to make a positive difference to people's lives. And we want to ensure that people with learning disabilities, their families and their supporters are driving the research and are fully involved. And we really hope that you can be part of that with us. So thank you. Before I pass on to our colleagues to start talking about some of our work, Ian, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I think this is, like I said earlier on in our start, it is going to be a very exciting time for us all. And we do want as many people of you out there to reach out, build the centre from the way we are now. It's an early stage thing, but I'm sure with all your support that you will make it well worthy in working alongside us. And I certainly would look forward to working alongside you as long as I can possibly can.
Thank you, Ian. Wonderful. Okay, so now over to some of the presentations about work that's underway. And to start us off, we're going to be reflecting on some of the stuff we're doing around health and social care. So I'm going to pass over to colleagues. I'll mute our microphone now and over to you.
Yeah, morning everyone. I'm Ned. I'm a dragon. I do research about health and social care at the Open University, and I'm just going to talk about some of the projects that we're doing at the moment in this area, and also invite a few other people to just share some information about the bits that they're doing. Next slide, Rachel. So yeah, at SHIELD we do research about health and social care and how that can be better for people with learning disabilities. Something that's key for this is that we want to make sure that people's views and voices are included in the way that health and social care services are planned and delivered, and in the that support and care is thought about. Thanks, Rachel. And Elif is just going to talk a little bit here about why they think it's important for us to do research about health and social care at SHLD. Elif, are you there?
Yes. Hello. We do health and social care research because some people have bad experiences in services, and people are dying a lot younger than they should be, and people often experience poor health.
Thanks, Elif. Elif, did you want to just introduce yourself as well? And I don't think you've introduced yourself yet.
I'm Elif. I'm on the I'm part of the Dragons.
Lovely. Thanks, Elif. Rachel. As I said, we're doing quite a few different research projects around health and social care, and this is kind of what we're just going to give an overview of today. So there's things about stuff to do with diabetes, end-of-life care, mental health, key life transitions, and also about how services can listen a bit better to people with profound learning disabilities. And Lorna is just going to talk about a diabetes project now.
Hi, thanks, Ned. So my name's Lorna. I'm a research associate at the Open University and also one of the Dragons. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the research I did for my PhD. So what did I want to find out? I wanted to know what people say makes a good diabetes appointment for people with learning disabilities. And this is important because diabetes is more common for people who've got a learning disability. And there's also evidence of some inequalities in diabetes care for people with learning disabilities. For example, people with type 2 diabetes and a learning disability are less likely to get all the care and checks that they need to help them stay well. Next slide, please, Rachel. So what I did, I spoke to people with a learning disability who also had type 1 or type 2 diabetes. I spoke to people who provide support to people with learning disabilities during their diabetes appointments. And I also spoke to healthcare professionals who've got some experience of talking to patients with learning disabilities about their diabetes. So some key findings, I found that people said that a good diabetes care appointment is one that's accessible. So for example, where it's easy to make the appointments and the waiting rooms are not too noisy. It's important that that any changes are made for the person's needs. So for example, reasonable adjustments, such as giving the person more time or providing easy read information. And healthcare professionals said that it was important that to complete all the diabetes checks just the same as you would with someone who doesn't have a learning disability. But for people with learning disabilities, it's also really important that you don't cause the person any distress.
Thanks, Lorna. I just touch upon a project that SHLD is involved in called the DAPPLE project. And DAPPLE is about end-of-life care and about people's end of lives when a person's very poorly or old and when they're going to die soon. And the project is about making sure that during this period that everyone can live their end of life in the way that they would like to. Thanks, Rachel. So the research, the DAPPLE research is happening across England in 4 places in West Yorkshire, Leicestershire, Milton Keynes and South London, and it involves lots of different universities. It's being led by Kingston University, and I think some of them might be here today, so shout out to you guys if you are. There's also Leicester University, Loris Hospice, and us at the Open University, as well as lots of different kind of health and social care organisations and whatnot. Thanks, Rachel. So in the project, we're finding out about people's lives, stories, and experiences when they're at their end of lives. So there's lots of people, lots of researchers, including myself, that are spending time with people with learning disabilities with end of life care needs, and finding out about what they think is good care and support, and finding out about their stories and their views. Thanks, Rachel. So we've been seeing if health and social care professionals listen to people during this period, to see if they respond to their views and their experiences. And we are also kind of finding out about what are the challenges in promoting good end-of-life care for people with learning disabilities, and also what kind of good models of support and services there are. Thanks, Rachel. So another area of research that SHIELD are doing is around transitions in social care, and Nathaniel just wanted to speak to you a little bit about that. Nathaniel, are you about?
Greetings. Hello, everyone. I'm Nathaniel. I'm also a dragon for SHIELD. And with me today is also my plushie, who is also a dragon. So thinking about transitions and the vital importance of transitions. Transitions is an area which is being looked at quite a bit, both within research and for advocacy organisations and also social care providers. So I reached out to a colleague who works in Graysair called Tom, who's the new business manager. And I'm just going to read out a quote from Tom about the importance and challenges relating to work around transitions. Transitions represent a critical life stage where poor planning can lead to loss of support, social isolation, or regression in independence. Getting it right enables people to build meaningful, connected, and inspirational adult lives. However, transitions remains challenging due to the fragmented systems between children's and adult services, funding pressures, variable eligibility thresholds, and a lack of suitable housing and employment opportunities. So a really important area with some really big challenges that need us to work together.
Thanks, Nathaniel. That was beautifully put. And now Gillian is just going to talk about a related project to do with transitions. Gillian, are you about?
Yep, has the camera come on? No?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fabulous. Yeah, so good morning, everybody. So my name's Gillian Paulin, and I'm a learning disabilities nurse by background. And many years ago, I was a community nurse working in a very busy part of the middle of the country. And I was supporting people with profound learning disabilities and their parents as around the ages of 14 years of age and upwards as they were beginning their journeys for transitions. So now, many years later, working at the Open University, I'm now doing a doctorate in health and social care. And I wanted to go back and find out, what's happening around transition? Has anything changed? So I'm focusing on talking to parents about their experiences, so parent carers, and I've chosen that role, and I can explain more about that outside of the meeting if people want to know. And it's their experiences as their sons and daughters have transitioned into adulthood, and the experiences of the services that they've been supported by. So those services in children's services, in health and social care, and those in adult services. Rachel, for the next slide, please. So I'm having interviews with the parents. So we're doing that on the laptop using Microsoft Teams, and everyone's agreed to have it recorded. So I'm listening to their voices and they're telling me their stories. So we've got a few questions that guide the interview just to give it a bit of structure. But the main thing is the parents can tell me anything they want to do. And I've recruited 5 carers, 6, carers, and that's, or parent carers, and that's really difficult to do. It took me almost a year to get people to come forward, and I think it's because people are really busy. It's difficult to know because obviously I wasn't able to speak to those that didn't come forward. And we've had our interviews, and now I'm going through each of the interview transcripts and doing the analysis. And I'm using something called interpretive phenomenological analysis. So again, you can find out more about that after today if you want to. So of the parents that I've done the analysis for, I've found out that they are having a lot of stress because of difficulties in the systems. And as Nathaniel and Ned pointed out there, there is that inequality there. And again, this was what I saw many decades ago, and we're hearing about it again now. Rachel, next slide, please. The policies that we've had in those last decades, they've added to the stresses and lack of control of the parents. So there will be something in the research findings that I hope will help improve services, will hope increase the value of parents, giving their information about their sons and daughters, but also shaping the way that services are delivered. We want to prevent harm, so we want those parents and the people that they support to be safe. Everybody wants to be looked after in a good way, so we want that to come through. And the big part in there is hope. So many of the parents have at times expressed feeling really hopeless, really frustrated. So I'm hoping that there'll be some nice positive things that come out of it for the parents. And I will put in the chat my email address if people want to get in contact, and the link to 2 of my posters, because I've done 2 posters so far about the research, and I've done a transcript for it, so you can listen to me as I read the poster to you. So hopefully in a couple of years' time, when the project's finished, I'll have a few more things that I can share to make some more difference. Thank you. I think that's the last slide, Rachel. Yeah.
And Ned, just to let you know, we're slightly over on this one, so just need to wrap up if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. This is the final thing that we'll just talk about, and it's about a tool that I've been leading work on, which has been co-produced to help social care organisations better respond to people with profound learning disabilities, as lots of organisations struggle to include this group in planning support, in the way that their services developed and so on. And it's being co-produced for 3 different types of social care organisations, so day services, hospices, which provide support to people with life-limiting conditions with profound learning disabilities, and also art-based organisations. Thanks, Rachel. So it's been happening over the past few years, and it's involved lots and lots of people, including people with profound learning disabilities, and other people with learning disabilities, autistic people, and health and social care organisations across the country. Thank you. And as I say, it's aiming to help people with profound learning disabilities have a bigger say in health and social care, and hopefully to help them be a bit more included in support planning and service development, and also in the way that staff are trained. Thanks, Rachel. And just to say finally, if anyone wants to hear about any of the projects that have been spoken about today, or if you want to get involved in any of them, then please, of course, just let us know. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ned. That's great. And we're now handing over to Nathaniel and Lorna.
Thanks, Liz. So we're going to be talking about advocacy, rights and social justice. So what is social justice? Social justice covers the idea that people with learning disabilities should have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. And topics include the inequalities that people with learning disabilities experience. So, for example, not receiving the same healthcare as people who don't have learning disabilities, and also the rights of people with learning disabilities.
What is advocacy? Self-advocacy is about knowing your rights and responsibilities, speaking up for your rights, being able to ask for things that are important to you, being able to tell your story, being able to make choices and decisions that affect your life. Whereas advocacy is people supporting other people to do all of these things. On to the next slide. Yes. So we now have a video on the history of the last 50 years of self-advocacy as produced by Brighton and Hove Speak Out with the support of many organisations and many people. As this video is a little bit long, we're just going to show a short clip of the 50 years.
It's been 50 years since the first recorded Speaking Up group for people with learning disabilities got together. We want to celebrate this. A lot has happened since then. Now there are lots of self-advocacy groups all over the country. We want to look back at our journey over the last 50 years. But what is self-advocacy?
Self-advocacy is speaking up for yourself, the things that are important to you.
Self-advocacy means you know about your rights and you can speak up for your rights. And you are able to make choices and decisions that affect your life.
Why is self-advocacy important? Which is a good question. It is important to learn self-advocacy skills because it helps you decide what you want in your life. It helps you learn about what choices you have.
When you have good self-advocacy skills, you can have more control and make decisions that are best for you.
When the first recorded Speaking Up group met in 1972, life was very different for people with learning disability. Lots of people still live in this big institution like the old hospital. For a lot of people's life, it was so hard. People with learning disability were shut away, not even being heard. So sometimes, for many years, people didn't have much choice or control in their life, and there was a lot of abuse that happened.
50 years. So from this film, to give a quick summary of the key events in the last 50 years of self-advocacy, and I encourage everyone to look up on YouTube 50 years of self-advocacy and watch the full film. But to give a quick rundown of the key events. So the first Speaking Up meeting took place in 1972 when people living in long-stay hospitals met in a grand house with a group of professionals in an event called Our Life, an opportunity of participation. So while not yet self-advocacy, this was an early step towards valuing the voices of people with lived experience. Then in 1981, MENCAP started a participation forum in London, which focused on learning how to do self-advocacy, of whom one of the members was Gary Bourlet. In 1984, the International Self-Advocacy Conference in the US took place, which then inspired People First groups across the UK to form. In 2001, with the support of the Department of Health, a national forum was created as part of the white paper Valuing People. But then in 2017, the forum was stopped because the government took away the funding. And I say stopped but it must be said that there are now groups such as SHIELD and Learning Disability England at a national level who play an important role in valuing co-production and supporting the work of self-advocates. However, at a local level, due to council cuts, there's less and less advocacy funding. So the opportunity or lack of opportunity to be supported and support advocacy is a roll of the dice, which is very much dependent on where you happen to be living, thus unequal opportunities. Next slide.
Nathaniel and Lorna, just to let you know, we've just got about 1 to 2 minutes left, I'm afraid. So just to thank you.
Okay, so briefly, what research have we already done on this topic? So we've done research about reproductive justice and research about technology. We've also done lots of research with self-advocacy organisations. Just with a quick example, that includes Filling the Gap and Funding the Gap, where we explored the role of self-advocacy in supporting people with learning disabilities during the coronavirus pandemic, and worked with Learning Disability England to find out more about the funding of self-advocacy. And you can find out more examples on our website. Next slide, please. Research we would like to do in the future includes research on people with learning disabilities having a say in the things that matter to them, the inequalities that people experience. We'd like to do a complete history of self-advocacy and to look at how we can measure the impact of self-advocacy and measure the impact of good lives, for example, Learning Disability England's Good Lives framework.
In short, all voices matter, so let's make the future co-produced. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nathaniel and Lorna. That was great to hear that overview. Thank you. Right, handing over now to Elif and Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Just checking that Elif's still here. I know Elif was having trouble with her Wi-Fi earlier.
Hello.
Yay! Elif, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Rachel, could we go back a slide? Sorry.
So my name is Ellie, and this is Lindsay.
Hi.
We're both dragons.
We're both dragons. Okay. Shall we move on to the next slide?
Arts and cultural activities include visual arts, drama, music, dance, and many other things. Inclusive arts and culture means that people with learning disabilities are able to participate. Next slide. Good. Why is inclusive art and culture important to the SHIELD? It's good for our health and well-being, and it develops a sense of community and belonging. And it helps us share our stories in ways that are enjoyable and important. Next slide.
Now we're going to ask Paul if he wants to say a few words about Access All Areas.
Yep. Hey everyone. I'm Paul. I'm also a Dragons who also work with the Open University and Access to All Areas, which I'm gonna say a little bit. Access to All Areas is a disruptive performance company that works with people with learning disabilities and autistic people. It's a theatre company that runs from 1974, and previously it was the Rainbow Company, and now it's called Access to All Areas, and it's that stage and screen work. I'm an actor, associate artist, and I'm also trustee of the board at Access to All Areas.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Elif?
Speak Out did a big focus campaign for better housing, where we collaborated with a printmaking studio and also created posters combining our drawings. It was a group project, and I think art is really important for advocacy and campaigning. Next slide. These are some of the pictures of the exhibit that we had in Brighton. Next slide.
SHLD has been working with arts organisations, including MK Milton Keynes Gallery. Ned and I worked with the gallery to explore Art and Us, which was an inclusive arts programme for families with children with complex needs and learning disabilities. We evaluated the impact of the programme for children, families, artists and the gallery staff. Everyone enjoyed participating in Art and Us and having Art and Us as part of the range of programmes put on by the gallery. And it was particularly valued by families and children, recognising that there are very limited places that children with complex needs and disabilities are able to go and play and just enjoy themselves. Next slide, please. SHLD, as we're working with arts organisations, and there are a number of ongoing projects, and this is an area that we really want to develop within the research centre. So, for example, SHLD has been partnering with learning disabilities arts organisations, including Artbox London and Enteleki Arts. Next slide, please. The Artbox London are based in North London, and on the screen are some pictures of their artists who've made the most amazing work. Next slide, please. Enteleki Arts run Ambient Jam, and on the picture here you can see an amazing picture of people having fun being part of Ambient Jam. It's inclusive. It's about inclusive creative performances led by people with profound learning disabilities. Next slide, please. Enteleki Arts and other arts organisations want to promote ways for people with profound learning disabilities to be included in arts and in broader society. And we think arts and culture are a really good way to support inclusion. Next slide, please. Some research we would like to do in the future. So here are some questions that we think are important, but there are probably lots more. So questions like, how are inclusive arts good for our health and well-being? Who isn't able to access art and culture, and how do we change this? How can art help change things for people with learning disabilities? And Elif gave a really great example of that, of art to produce social change. And what does it mean to be an artist who has a learning disability? That's the end of our slides. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much to Elif, Lindsay and Paul. And just to say, I'm aware that there are some really interesting kind of conversations and comments and suggestions coming up in the chat box. So we'll answer those as we go, but just to let everybody know, we'll go through those also very carefully afterwards and follow up with any kind of interesting leads and suggestions that people have made. So thank you. Do continue to put things into the chat. So this is the final little presentation that we've got before we go to a break. And this is the section where we're going to be focusing on and sharing some of the work that members of SHLD have been doing to help uncover and share the diverse histories of people with learning disabilities. But before we get into all of that, we want to play a short film of some SHLD members reflecting on why they think history matters. So, Rachel, if you could go to the next slide, please, and play that film for us.
The work that I'm doing needs absolutely need to be heard, because in the work today is so negative towards ethnic people, especially about Black people, and I think that bringing these stories to light is kind of it's not only helps my confidence, but it also helps educate people.
I think I'd really like to explore more what the impact is for people of learning more about their stories. Certainly for Mabel, recovering her story was absolutely central. She discovered that she had some cousins, for example. So learning your own history, recording your own history and having it recognised is absolutely vital to some people.
Starting within the learning disability community, I think it's very important, as mentioned, in terms of people learning about their own history, but also really important for carers to understand a little bit about that history. And it gives some context as to some of the struggles and some of the challenges and some of the massive achievements by overcoming those challenges that people with learning disabilities that carers may be supporting have achieved and have faced.
And so I think it's been really important to sort of widen the ways in which history can be told. We've had some amazing experiences of dance performances and things like this based on these histories. And I think that's how to do it. So I think the two key elements are people being involved in understanding their own history. People have often said to me, oh my goodness, how can you say that to people? It's such a dark history. People are incredibly resilient and they want to know their history, however bad it is, because if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going, and it helps you to understand today much more.
Yeah, so thanks to all our SHLD members who contributed to that film. Yeah, some really kind of interesting reflections that I think sort of set up a lot of the work we're doing. So, I mean, SHLD really started with life story work. In the early days, this involved academics from the Open University going around the country and inviting people to talk about their lives and their memories from the past. Some people responded by creating artwork, others wrote poems, and many of them were captured in this wonderful book called Know Me As I Am. It's still available, and if you haven't seen it or if you don't have a copy, I'd really recommend trying to get hold of this book. It's wonderful. But many people said that was the first time that anybody had asked them these kinds of questions or shown any real interest in the lives that they had led. Next slide, please, Rachel. Since then, I'm really pleased to say that there's been a lot more research and work involving people telling their stories, and we've learned a huge amount about the past as a result of listening to people's stories. And some of that work has happened through universities, but much of it has happened in advocacy groups, in social care provider organisations, and in arts-based organisations. And on this slide and the next, we feature a couple of recently completed projects where people have been supported to tell their stories. One of our SHLD Dragons, Donna Harrison's been very involved in the recently completed United Response project as an interviewer. And Donna, I wonder, are you there now? Is this a good time for you to come in?
Yeah, that's going to speak. Yeah, I'm going to start.
That would be great, Donna. Thank you.
I learned about the training. I didn't know how to interview before I joined the project. I didn't know what to say to the interviewer at first, but then it got easier. I had training how to talk to my interviewees. When I interviewed Alex, it was so simple. I enjoyed getting to know his life story. I had practice with Alex during the interviews, which gave me the confidence to do other interviews. I interviewed people in Littlehampton areas and also supported by Night Response. They had good things about their life stories. Sometimes was not so good. I enjoyed talking to people and getting to know them before before the main interviews. It was interesting to hear about their personal life stories to share mine. So I really enjoyed the experience, even for I faced some challenges myself. I had supported and someone around guiding me in the right direction was helpful for me. Our challenges I faced was when doing the interviews, but some were easier and some were hard than others. I got to know people for a short period of time. I took great interest of hearing about their life stories. I had a great time at the beach with my sport worker at Littlehampton, which great memories at the beach, which they took me to at the end. The experience was wonderful because I got to know about the sad stories and the good stories and the bad stories. The interview basically was in Littlehampton and sharing their life stories about their personal life. It's very interesting about to talk about the personal life, and I had support workers guiding me to say the right words. Sometimes I got stuck on what to say, sometimes, but they helped me. And during my experience, I found some of it was easy, some wasn't challenging. Some interviews were hard to interview, and some people not so hard to interview. So and also we went to Littlehampton on the beach at the end, which was really fun.
Donna, thank you so much. It's great to hear about your experience of doing that, and I really hope that inspires maybe other people to think about interviewing other people with learning disabilities and maybe sharing their own stories. So thank you very much for that. That's great. Lots of positive reactions coming through. Thanks, Donna. Next slide, please. So I would, yeah, absolutely. We really recommend that you look at the Our Stories project website. It's just been a brilliant project. And similarly, another project that's just completed by This New Ground, the Groundwork project in Portsmouth. They've also been doing some oral history, life story work, and the stories are on their website and will go into their local archive. So that's another fantastic project to take a look at. Okay, next slide, please, Rachel. So we would love more people with learning disabilities to record and share their stories if they want to. We know that sharing life stories can be a very powerful tool to help improve the services that people receive. And sharing life stories can also help build connections between people. So on the slide here, you can see the first version of Ian's life story, which came out of a project we did with our colleagues in Japan. Ian, do you want to just say a few words about that?
Yeah, that was a very exciting experience for me. It was a research which we called inclusive research between ourselves and Japan. It was a very exciting time for me because it was like the first time in my life I did not know what it had been like to actually really do my life story. Maybe talking about it in myself, but not realizing what impact it would have on other people. Being part of the inclusive research with ourselves in Japan was that platform which gave me the opportunity to not just talk about my life story, but to actually share it with 100 students in the local university. Each time I did that, the valuations from that actual time, that session, were so positive. It made them think about, oh, can we do our own life stories? Why not? Who has control of that? And we say they can, but it's the learning process. And I thank the Open University for actually allowing me to be part of that project, because it means so much to me now. And every time I see this slide now, I always think, oh yeah, that was the time we were just when Japan was just coming into COVID. So we were lucky to get out of it when we did.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Ian. Yeah, we were very lucky to get there just before COVID hit. So it was a great project. And we've got a project report on our website. Now I'm mindful we're getting very close to 12. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Rachel. We'll need to whiz through these last few. Just to let people know that another area of research we're currently working on is investigating the histories of people with learning disabilities from Black and minoritized ethnic communities. This work's being led by SHLD Dragon, Paul Christian. Paul, do you just want to kind of talk to the words on the slides there, if you don't mind?
Yeah, okay. The research to uncover the missing constant histories of people with learning disabilities from Black and minoritized ethnic communities. Existing research told the life stories of activists like Mabel Cooper and Harvey Waterman, who also lost access to libraries, who started in 1978, who had lived in institutions. Learning about their lives made me really curious about the stories of Black people like me. I really couldn't find any of their stories, but I really wanted to find these missing stories.
Thanks very much, Paul. And we're hoping to publish a paper that talks about some of the initial findings from that research soon. So next slide, please, Rachel. I don't have much time to say very much about these projects, I'm afraid, but we just wanted to spotlight a couple of other pieces of work that you may be interested in. So Simon Jarrett from the Open University and Helen Atherton from University of Leeds have done an amazing piece of work with the Finding Ivy project, looking at the experiences of British-born people, disabled people who were killed under the Nazi Action T4 programme, a terrible history, but one that mustn't be forgotten. So, you might want to follow up with that. And also just to let people know that the Open University has been working with a number of organisations in Wales on the Wales Reach project, exploring the collective history of support and advocacy. So people with learning disabilities are involved in that project, and it's really sparked a lot of interest and hopefully more work to come. Okay, so next slide, please, Rachel. Now, I don't think we've got time, sadly, to play this final film, but we can send the link around. If you've got a Vimeo account, you can access it. But just to let people know that for a little while now, there's been work bubbling away to develop a network of individuals and organisations who, like us in SHLD, are really committed to ensuring that people with learning disabilities are part of history and captured as part of the historical record. And that means making sure that people are in the archives and that we archive the history of learning disability and that history is really accessible. So watch this space, because there will be more information kind of coming out about the Mabel Cooper Collective. And obviously, if anyone's got an interest in archiving the history of learning disability, we'd love to hear from you. But I think we are slightly over and people need their break.
I think on this part, there's been a lot in there, actually, in this session. There's a lot of food for thought, and hopefully that will gather over the actual breakout groups after the break. I think for now, what we're going to do is take a 10-minute break. Please switch off your microphones, but stay on the link. All right? So have a 10-minute break, recharge your batteries, get a cuppa, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. If everyone could aim to come back for about 12:10, just slightly after, that would be great. And then Rachel will put us all into the breakout rooms. See you shortly. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely. Thanks very much, Rachel. So welcome back, everybody. We're going to be moved into breakout rooms now, and we'll have, it says 20 minutes here because we were a little late starting the break. I think realistically that'll be more like 15. So Rachel will bring us all back through to at 12:30. There's going to be an SHLD facilitator in all of the breakout rooms. And these are just some of the questions that we'd kind of like you to think about just to get going, but you may sort of go off in other directions. But we'd love to know, if you've heard anything today that particularly interests you. We'd also really like to know if you think there are questions or issues or research that we haven't spoken about, but you think we should be focusing on in the future. Who are we not seeing in our research and in our work? Who or what might be missing? And how could we involve more people in SHLD in the future? If you could please pop us into the breakout rooms, that would be great. And then we'll be brought back into the main room at 12:30, and the facilitator will provide some very brief feedback. Okay, so Rachel, this is where you work your magic. I never. Thanks, Rachel. Gosh, that flew by. We thought we had loads of time. It just flew by. So thank you.
That's good.
Everyone. Right. So hopefully all the groups are coming back in now. And what we'll do, we've got a few minutes, about 15 minutes or so, for the facilitators to give just a very brief overview, 2 or 3 headline points about some of the things that came up in the group. But just to reassure everyone that we're also going to send out a feedback form after the event today, and that will give people another chance to share any ideas or thoughts. We also know that because there's been the glitch on Zoom, there were 2 people that couldn't get into the meeting, so that will also give people a chance to also kind of share their ideas with us. So I'm going to now try and go around all the facilitators. Hopefully I've got everybody here. Can I please start with Lindsay? Lindsay, if you're there, could you just give a brief couple of minutes summary of some of the things that came up?
Yeah, we had a great conversation. It looks like there was a brilliant party at People First in Merseyside, and I kind of wish I was there rather than on my own in my room. So a couple of points from us. There was a lot of interest in history, things like genealogy, which I can never say, and in family trees. There's a lot of interest in arts and drama, and a conversation about existing drama groups that are taking place and the importance of them. There was a conversation about the importance of thinking about health and the terrible statistics and health outcomes for people with learning disabilities. And finally, a really cool conversation about things that we might be missing. So the importance of gardening, and a conversation about community orchard, as well as a new really cool sounding project that Merseyside People First are working on around climate change and the importance of that for all of us. So some really good good areas for us to think about that I don't think that we'd brought into our thinking already. So thank you everyone in the group, and I hope I did that justice.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Yes, some really interesting ideas there. Great stuff. Thank you. So could I move over now, please, to Lorna?
Yes, so there's interesting discussions there. Some of the topics people found interesting were like the day doc and the work on transition from childhood to adult services, and also the history, the Forgotten Lives work of BILD, and people said there were things that they're going to go away and look up more information about. And some of the topics that we should focus on in the future, one was to look at the impact of government cuts on people's lives. So, for example, the impact on healthcare. And then a really interesting conversation around the impact of wider sort of cultural values and attitudes towards people with learning disabilities, and which would then impact on things like inequalities in healthcare. And that research around that should focus on interventions to address those cultural values and to measure the impact of those interventions.
Great summary, Lorna, thank you. Right, can we move now, please, to Ned's group?
Yeah, hello again. Our discussion began with some bits about needing to ensure that the research we do leads to impact, particularly around policy, and ensuring that we have connections to the people that have power and control over these policies, and trying to engage them in the right ways. It then moved on to a bit about self-advocacy, and how in some places, well, Bristol was the example given, that some self-advocacy organisations, learning disability ones, had been set up alongside broader disability advocacy organisations, which perhaps goes against some of the ways that learning disability organisations have done it in the past. So there's a kind of sense of one, whether it will work for people with learning disabilities being involved in the broader disability movement, and two, whether it's a good thing to look for in the future, kind of thinking more broadly about disability in general for people with learning disabilities, and how we might be able to think about intersectionality and those kind of things. And finally, one point was to do research around education and how people with learning disabilities do or often don't belong in mainstream education, or how they're perhaps excluded from it, and how that could perhaps be improved. And then finally, making sure that we show how we're causing or creating impact, and doing that in interesting ways, so that people with learning disabilities want to become more engaged with the research that we're doing. And we touched upon some of the creative ways that we've been doing that, but also looking to find new ways to do that in the future.
Lovely, thank you very much, Ned. That's great to hear all of those interesting reflections. Gillian, can we come to your group now, please?
I'm afraid I was late getting into my group with a bit of a technical problem on my end. So when I joined the conversation, we were having discussions around inclusive research, and particularly with the sort of the expectations almost from the audience that you're working with as to how inclusive is inclusive. And I gave examples of documentation that, you know, some people feel was inclusive and accessible to others, whereas other colleagues felt wasn't really meeting what the research audience was anticipating in that academic sense. The other suggestions we had were the newsletter and mailing list, that's something that people would like to receive. And then there was another suggestion about having an additional potential membership of SHLD, which is a user group. And part of that was being a bit of an advisory panel and reviewing things before they're taken within the wider group. But if Jane or Melanie want to come in and just expand on the earlier points, then please do.
Yes, thank you, Gillian. And that sounds really interesting. But yes, certainly, if anyone else from the group wants to just say a couple of words, we've got some time.
Just to say, the little bit that Gillian missed before she came in was an acknowledgement of the importance of arts and the intersection of arts, not just with advocacy, but also with supporting inclusive research. So a kind of nod to, yes, it's great to see arts in your kind of portfolio of interests, and hope to see that expanded.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Can we now move over to Kim's group, please?
I was in Lorna's group, Liz. I ended up in Lorna's group.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Kim. And then finally, Owen, I don't know if you ended up having a group owner, if you also got moved.
No, I did. I did have a group, Liz. I did have a group, and I'm happy to share. So we had a strong theme around listening and voice, particularly to people who haven't been listened too much yet. So there was a suggestion around needing to listen more to family members, and how do we get professionals in particular to listen more to family members empathetically, and also how we might listen more to people from rural areas who perhaps not been researched, whose experiences has not been researched so much. So we had quite a big theme around listening and voice. A second interest was again around history, around T4 and eugenics, both past and present. And I took the opportunity, actually, as I will do now, just to flag up the Disposable Humanity documentary that's recently been produced. It's been screened in America a few times and once in Europe, but not yet publicly in the UK, I think. So, but it's one to keep an eye out for, Disposable Humanity. So T4 and eugenics. There was a theme around how do we do more public engagement? How do we do more outreach? How do we do more PR in order to get people to care more about issues relating to learning disability? And there was also a suggestion that we could usefully do more work with partners like local authorities to develop a genuine understanding of what co-production means, particularly in terms of the practicalities, the time commitments, the easy read resources and things like that. Those are the main points from our group.
Thanks, Owen. That's great. And actually that connects with part of the discussion that we had in our group. So we were also reflecting on some of the challenges of doing co-production, and particularly in kind of more health and local authority settings. And again, I've seen in the chat, I think people kind of saying it'd be good to maybe have some more resources around that. So that's something I think we can definitely kind of look at. On the healthcare side of things, we also had a brief discussion about some of the kind of new therapies and interventions that can really support people, particularly around maybe mental health and trauma. But actually, there's work to do to think about how we can make those therapies more accessible to people and to explain what they are and to make sure that people can actually access them. So that was interesting. We had a conversation also about stories and the importance of stories, but also recognising some of the challenges and the complexities, particularly what happens to people's stories after they've told and shared them. Where do they go next? Who looks after them? Who sees or hears them? And how can we reassure people that they can stay in control of their stories? And I think that's a really important kind of point for us all to be reflecting on when we're doing this work. We also talked about the importance of other people sharing their stories and having an opportunity to reflect on their experiences, and that including professionals and practitioners too, as well as family members and people with learning disabilities. So that might also be something that we kind of come back to and can pick up. And then finally, on the history side, we had an interesting discussion about family history and family tree work and how people with learning disabilities can be better supported to research their own family history. And that's come up in another discussion that we've had kind of outside of this meeting. So I think there's definitely something there for us to pick up here around family history and maybe thinking about accessible resources for people who want to do that. We had a very brief discussion maybe about is there more to do around archaeology and learning disability history, really interesting. So yeah, would love to maybe kind of think about making some more connections there about going much further back in time and thinking about other ways in which we recover history. And there was, I guess, the kind of point that we ended on was how do we get this history out to the wider public? And Gary, who was one of the contributors in our session, said, books are all well and good, but not everybody gets to read the books. Actually, film, video, that can be a really powerful way to share the history. And so I think that, again, is something that we must definitely kind of follow up on outside of our session today is thinking about how we can communicate this important history to the wider public. So that's definitely a takeaway point for us. So I think that's it. Yes.
No, Liz, just to say I was in a breakout room.
Charlie, I didn't realise.
That's okay. I'll just quickly feed back what I can. So we were talking about how can we involve support workers and how, unless as a support worker, the people's stories and how important it is to really to know what they enjoy, what their preferences are, and really get to know them. It's just so important. How do we involve support workers in that? Also, that although we tell our life stories, it would be great if we could share the stories on a daily basis. So notice, what are the daily frustrations and joys, and what does that person bring their attention to, and what engages them, rather than just one history and then that's it, sort of the ongoing histories, as it were. And we somebody said that arts had been hugely beneficial to them, and they would, for people with learning disabilities, but for everyone, and it had been hugely, and they were very interested in the arts projects that we were doing. And then somebody was saying that the life history comparisons of how people, whether they were living independently or with families or in supported housing, and how those histories compare, would be a really interesting comparative study, the history of those housing setups. Everybody was sort of saying that the breadth and richness of the projects we're doing at SHLD was really great, and how academic settings really need to take that more seriously. So and how people can engage with projects, and also finally how people, there's a shift in sort of how people are creating their own histories. A lot of people now are sharing on social media, and there's also sort of the way that we have in the past sort of preserved the histories, and there can be sort of a fragmentation of social media and what's lost in there, but also what's lost in the way that we preserve histories. So there's just quite an interesting time at the moment for that. So that's more or less what we talked about.
Amazing, thank you, Shirley. There are just so many potential projects here. Where to start? I mean, it's really, really a rich discussion. So thank you, everybody. And again, I'm seeing things that are popping up in the chat that at this point, I'm not able to respond to. But just to say, we're obviously taking note of all of these interesting suggestions people are making. History of art for people with learning disabilities. I mean, there's many overlaps between these areas, as we kind of flagged at the beginning. And yeah, so many potential ways to take the work forward. So but really hope that after this event today that we can connect with some of you about this work afterwards. It would be really good to have some follow-up conversations. So thank you. And facilitators, if it's okay, I'll be in touch with you afterwards to just request if you could send me some notes. That would be brilliant. So next on our agenda, I believe is it will be kind of moving to Klaus Dieter. Now, Klaus Dieter, I know was in another meeting, and I'm not sure if Klaus Dieter is here just yet.
I am.
Oh, one minute.
Good timing. Good timing.
Very good timing. Welcome, Klaus Dieter. So everybody, I'm just introducing you here to Klaus Dieter Assad, who is Professor of Distance Learning and Leadership at the Open University. And Klaus Dieter is our Executive Dean in the Faculty of Wellbeing, Education and Language Studies, Wells, at the OU. And Wells is essentially the home for our SHLD Centre and has supported our move from being a research group to a centre. So we're really grateful to the faculty for all of this support. Klaus Dieter, I know you very kindly agreed to say a few words in between a busy day of meetings. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Thanks, Liz. And I'm glad to have been invited to close the launch of the Wells Center for Social History and Learning Disability. And I regret I couldn't join you earlier. I just picked up the last 10 minutes and also saw the slides. And I think I got a
good sense of what you were talking about. I'm glad that after over 30 years of the Social History and Learning Disability group, you now found a bigger way, a new chapter in the history of giving people with learning disabilities visibility, voice, advocacy, and agency. The Open University has a long history of supporting inclusive research alongside people with learning disabilities, and this center is evidence that we are prepared to invest in this research because we know it matters. It's a strong example of the OU social mission in action. What's important about this center for me is not just the work it does, but that it's built on inclusiveness and co-creation, all by design. WELS has a history in changing lives by its research and its teaching, as of course does the Open University. WELS also has a history in creating impact, not by doing things to people, but doing things with people. And just the program today, I think this is also clearly evident in this launch. We take equity, diversity, and inclusion very seriously at the Open University and carry EDI close to our hearts. Fundamentally, I strongly believe we're all just people who can make our collective life richer and better if we create the conditions for everybody to thrive, be noticed, have impact. Much of how we have impact and change lives we do through the stories we tell each other and the story we tell ourselves. And that also just picked that up in the last 10 minutes. These stories often determine how others see us and how it helps us to give license, to push, give us the confidence to make a difference. And it's no surprise that stories feature prominently in the program and in the research of the center. So let me finish by thanking everybody who helped bring about the new center. Please continue as you've started and make a difference for all the people with learning disabilities so they can go on and make a difference in their lives and the people around them. I wish the center and all of you who bring your passion and active support to the work great satisfaction and fulfillment. You deserve it, and so do all the people who benefit from you, from your work. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Klaus-Dieter. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Ian, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, it's actually, I've just been listening to that. And, I've been part of the social history group alongside Jan when they started in 1994. And you said South Africa at that time. I've been part of the conference organising group alongside Liz for the last 10 years. And today it's an emotional feeling for me because to be sitting here and seeing the launch of this new centre and the words of wisdom from yourself is actually encouraged me to carry on the good work, and I will carry on the good work, and I hope at some stage during my journey I may be able to meet you at some other possible opportunity. Thank you for your support, and I'd really appreciate your time.
Thank you, and we'll make that happen, that meeting, of course. Yeah, glad you're going to continue your work.
Yeah,
thank you.
We all are. Thank you. Thanks very much, Klaus-Dieter. That's super. Right, Rachel, can we move to the next slide, please? So just a few words now on what next. Just to say, please do look out for details of our next conference taking place at the Open University in Milton Keynes. That will be in 2027. So that will be one of our big 2-day conferences. And it's also our intention through the centre to start organising some online events in between those big conferences and focusing on different areas of work. So, I mean, I think certainly from today, we've got some really good ideas about what some of those sessions might be. So please keep a lookout for details there. Next slide, please. So we also think, although I totally take on board Gary's point that books are not everything, but we do think it is time to have a new book about the history of learning disability. It's been a while. We also feel it's really important that this book includes chapters from self-advocates, from learning disability organisations, university and community researchers, and heritage professionals and others. And we're talking to publishers about this idea at the moment. So please, again, watch this space. As soon as we have more information about that, we will circulate to all of you. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. So you can contact us at the email address here. We've also got a new website, and it's an easy read website. So we'll pop these links in the chat. And as of just a few days ago, we've now got a centre on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, please do give us a follow, and we'll be that'll be another place where we're updating and sharing details of events and publications and whatnot. So do take a look there. It's also our intention longer term to maybe think about other social media platforms that are a bit more visual, things like Instagram, but we're just going to build up to that. So do bear with us on that. And I think that's probably it. Final slide, I think, Rachel. So yeah, it goes without saying, thank you so much for coming today, and for listening to our presentations in the first half, and for sharing all your ideas and suggestions in the breakout rooms. It's been a terrific session. We've really enjoyed it. We know that some people didn't get in. We've recorded the event, so we will circulate the recordings to people that weren't able to join us. But thank you very much for your contributions, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Ian?
Yes, I second that. It's been a very good session for me. I've really enjoyed everybody's contribution. You've all worked so hard on what you've been doing. Keep up the good work. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do anything. Think positive. Do justice to your work. Make sure everybody listens to you. Doesn't matter who you are, self-advocate, professional, whatever. Get the word out there. Speak to you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.